bless everybody. Thank you for joining me today on my I get ready to say my crazy is real. Um for the Crazy Within talk show. I am so excited today. We have on today my little sister, um, Johanna Hurley, who will be talking about a very serious conversation that I think is vital and important for our community. A lot of times we don't want to talk about things. We don't want to address certain issues. So on today, we're going to address a very important issue to our community, especially for women in our community. But before we begin, I'm going to open up in prayer. So I'm asking you to just bow your heads for a moment. Dear Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you for bringing us into this moment right now. God, I'm asking you to bless us as we go forth and we talk about this very sensitive but very real issue. Lord, I ask you to open up people's minds, open up their hearts to understand what it is that you wish to say to your children on today. Lord, I thank you and praise you for this day. Lord, I thank you and praise you for Johanna, who is a survivor and a life liver right now. She is living life to the fullest, even though she has battled cancer. And Lord, I thank you and I praise you for this opportunity for her to come talk about this very important issue and concern within the women in our community, especially within the church, where we like to keep a closed mouth about certain issues. I ask you right now to open up our hearts, our minds, and our spirits to receive. And Lord, if there be anything in us that is not to your glory, I ask it to be removed. And Lord, I ask you to increase as we decrease. We allow you to take over this moment, this opportunity, and this time. In the precious name of Jesus, amen. And I just want to say on today that I am so honored to have this wonderful woman of God on my show. As I said, she is my little sister, and I do love her so much. Me and her met many moons ago, I want to say, but she is a wonderful woman of God, a woman of God who has been through a lot. And I'm just going to read her bio, and then I'm going to bring her on to the show. Johanna Hurley was born in Germany and has been a resident in the United States for the past 20 years. She is an ordained minister, elder, the founder of the Divine Rapha Ministries, an entrepreneur, an overcomer of sexual abuse, a mentor to many, and a vulvar cancer survivor. I may be saying that wrong, people. Please forgive me. When she was diagnosed with vulvar cancer in December the 11th in 2017, a cancer she has never heard of until then. She was devastated. Having been in ministry for the past 22 years, she quickly realized that this would become something God would use for a particular purpose and ministry as well, just like so many others, so many of her other life experiences. She is a firm believer that all have the God-given power to turn even the horrible and traumatic experience into purpose and into something that gives God glory by allowing it to help others. And it wasn't long after her diagnosis with cancer that God had led her to raise awareness for this very little known disease. So in 2018, the Vulvar Cancer Awareness Forum, which is called VCAF, was established. Since then, VCAF has succeeded in helping countless individuals navigate and overcome the challenging situations that come with a vulvar cancer diagnosis. BCAF mission is to raise awareness for this overlooked and ignored cancer, as well as educating on it. BCAF actively advocates for change and advancement in vulvar cancer treatment, early detection, development of screening, etc. Besides that, VCAF advocates directly on the behalf of the patient who are having difficulties going through the diagnostic stage, and those who have already been diagnosed. Knowing there is a lack of support for vulvar cancer patients, which often lead to feelings of isolation and loneliness. The organization offers a three-part support group: one for vulvar cancer, then NIN, pre-cancer, and a family and friend support group. On February the 1st, 2021, VCAF successfully launched their Vulvar Cancer Care Box program called Hug in a Box, which is the first of its kind. The care boxes are designed to let patients know that they are not alone and provide them with some items that are needed and to encourage them. The vulvar cancer community may be largely overlooked, but VCAF is changing that one step and one person at a time, all while saving lives through education and awareness. And I want to bring on the woman who is doing this. I won't say single-handedly because I know she has support, but who is doing this for women all over the country. I want to bring onto the screen my sister in faith, Elder Johanna Hurley.
Hi, God bless you. Blessings to you. I am so thankful to be on this show tonight and the opportunity to talk about vulvar cancer, my journey, and the purpose that grew out of that. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. And I am so excited to have you here. I am so excited for you to talk about a few of the, oh, what happened? Okay, she got clicked off. So just give her a minute. She went off. So I'm just going to go back just a little bit about her ministry. If you do not know about her ministry, she does have a ministry. It's called Divine Rapha Ministries. She's had that ministry for quite some years now. I won't say how many, but she's had it for quite so many years now. And she has been, and if you have never heard my sister, you have to hear this woman of God preach you under a pew. Yes, she will. She will preach you under a pew. And I'm excited that when I met her, that's how I met her. I met her preaching, and she is a fireball for the Lord. So I am so excited for what she has done and what she is doing. I thank God for her, and I thank God for her other ministry, which is talking about this cancer that is one that is not very well known. I can say for myself that I didn't know that much about this cancer at all until she was actually diagnosed with it. And I remember the first time hearing it, that's why I can't pronounce it. It was a little scary for me. And I know it was scary for her. And I was just praying that God would bring her through everything that she was going to go through while she was dealing with this issue and this concern. And it's one that as women of God, we need to be very aware of, that we need not be afraid. We need not be scared. We need to take the opportunity to make sure that we know our own selves and our own body. And that was the reason why I thought this conversation is so important, because the one thing that I know within the church, a lot of times we try to hide things and we try to push things in the corner. And so as I put out on one of my on one of the flyers, we need to make sure that we're doing self-care down there. I think it's important that every woman know what she looks like down there. As a woman who's never been afraid of being a woman, that wasn't something I was ever fearful of. I always knew what I looked like, and if I had any issues or concerns, I took it to my doctor because I knew something wasn't right. I knew something was wrong. And I think it's real important that as women of God, that we know when something's not right, when something doesn't feel right, when something doesn't look right. We need to make sure that we are very aware of who we are, and making sure that if something doesn't look good, that we take the opportunity to go to our gynecologist and be honest and say, I was washing myself, and I saw a bump, or I noticed that my lips are a little too big. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Or maybe it's something as, I'm starting to feel funny, like in the inside, my stomach hurts, or when I push down, I know it's not my stomach, but there's something wrong. And so we as women should know our bodies so well that the doctor shouldn't be diagnosing us with anything that we are not aware of. It shouldn't be that once you get to the doctor tells you, that you should be able to say to the doctor, yeah, I noticed that, or I'm telling you this because I noticed that. And so with that being said, I hope that for any woman that is watching, that maybe you haven't been to the gynecologist in a while. I know that during the pandemic, a lot of us weren't able to go to the doctor, but I hope that you're taking this opportunity now that the doors are opened again, that you would take this time to go to the doctor, make sure that you're healthy, make sure that you're strong, make sure that you are taking care of yourself, not just outwardly, because some of us, we like to put on a lot of makeup, but then inwardly we're hurting. And we have some things that we need to get taken care of, and we need to go to a doctor to make sure that happens. And so I pray that that is something that you're doing, that you're taking time to get yourself examined, and that you know what's going on with you, that you know how important your life is, not just to yourself, but also to God. I know she's trying to come back on, and I know some of you are on here because you wanted to see Elder, and I know she's working to try to get herself back on. She was here, but she got her stream went away. So as soon as she can, she'll be back on. But if you have any questions, if you want to put some comments in, it would be great. But I'll keep talking about what I do know about vulvar cancer. And what I do know is, like I read, that it is one of those cancers that very few people know about. It is not something that we talk about breast cancer awareness. We talk about lung cancer. We talk about a lot of things, but this particular one, we do not talk about a lot, because for a lot of us, and she's back, for a lot of us, we do not, we don't know anything about it. We don't, hey, and she's back, and we don't know anything about it. So, I want you to take this opportunity, my sisters and brothers, to think about this. Like, this is a cancer that most of us do not know much about. And now that she's back, we will allow her to explain it to us. Can you hear me, sis? Yeah, okay.
Yes, I am so sorry. I don't know what happened. Everything just shut down. But we managed to be back. So thank God. Now, okay, where are we picking up? I apologize.
We're picking up on you explaining exactly what the cancer is, and how little is known about it.
All right. So, as I'm sure Cynthia has already shared, I was diagnosed with vulvar cancer. This was now 3.5 years ago, to be exact, December 11th of 2017. And I had never heard of this cancer prior to my diagnosis with it. I had known for roughly 7 years, 6 to 7 years, that something was wrong. I was dealing with various physical issues in, my genital pelvic region, but, tried to unsuccessfully figure out what's going on. And some of the symptoms that I was encountering, I think that's important to share. I had itching. It started with an itch. An itch that I tried to explain away at first. Oh, must be the soap I'm using, must be the laundry detergent, changing up products, switching things up. But the issue of the itching persisted. Oh, must be a yeast infection, because we as women can get yeast infections, and tried to treat it with over-the-counter, medications, and yet the issue the itch rather kept getting worse, until one day I woke up early in the morning and everything was hurting in my pelvic area.
Wow.
Everything was swollen. I had this burning, this pain, this itch. And so my mother had taken me to the emergency room. And at
Mhm.
the emergency room, a doctor simply just looked, never touched me, never really examined, never ran a test or anything, and said, "Oh, it's a bad yeast infection." Gave me a
Wow.
prescription, sent me on my way. I took the prescription. Over the next few days, the swelling went down, the pain kind of went down, but what remained was the itch. But I kept saying, "Oh, it's the yeast infection." He said it's a yeast infection, gotta be it. So I tried to do some nutritional changes that I know can feed into yeast infection and different things like that, but this itch kept getting worse
Wow.
until eventually it was something that would literally wake me up at night, like drive me insane. You would just want to, like, I mean, it was so hard to bear. And that's when I began to seek medical attention. But unfortunately, I was misdiagnosed for over 5 years, misdiagnosed several times,
Whoa.
even told that things couldn't be as bad as I said. By this time, I had physical evidence that something was wrong. I had what I knew later were tumors. I didn't know it at the time. But those, it looked like ulcers, but they were tumors. And despite that, doctors kept saying, "Oh, you just using the medication wrong, you're using the ointment wrong, you're using this wrong." Basically tried to blame me for my condition getting worse.
Mm.
So roughly 5 years down the road, I not only had an itch, but I had daily pain. Sitting was sometimes very unbearable due to the pain. Burning, burning and painful urination, and I had these, like I said, ulcers that were tumors, and all these different things going on. And eventually, a doctor told me, "Yeah, I think you just need to see a psychologist. You need to get a psych evaluation because
Whoa.
it cannot be that things are as bad as you say they are."
My
Despite, again, all the physical evidence that something was wrong.
God.
And so that's when I realized I have to advocate for myself.
Yes.
Something is wrong, is not what they say it is. Now, I was diagnosed with something called lichen sclerosis throughout the process, which is a autoimmune disease that does cause itchy, like, patches and areas on the vulva region. But what I was not told was that this condition, this autoimmune disease, actually has the potential to lead to vulva cancer. So, as
Wow.
my condition worsened, doctors never considered the potential that it could be cancer. I never knew of this cancer, didn't know it
Right.
could lead to cancer. So, but I knew something was wrong. And that's when I began to request a biopsy. And it took about 7 to 8 months to even get them to agree to a biopsy. It was a fight. And that's when 2 weeks later, I found myself in front of the doctor telling me, "You have vulva cancer." What? Like,
Wow.
I felt like I was hit in the face with a brick. Like, are you serious? I mean, I couldn't believe it. Now, I knew what the vulva was. I knew the medical term for that part of our body, but I never knew that you could get cancer there.
Mm.
So, long story short, when I was diagnosed, I tried to find out more about it because the doctor didn't even have an info pamphlet to give to me about this cancer because it didn't exist. And so, any other cancer, you breast cancer, oh, you get this big folder full of
Right,
information.
right.
Lung cancer, here's the folder of information. Doesn't
Wow.
exist for vulva cancer. So I went online, tried to find out information, and it was really like trying to search for a needle in a haystack, trying to find information even on Google. And so, long story short, vulva cancer is cancer of the vulva, meaning our outer female genital area. Now, we can't confuse the two because we use the general term vagina when we refer to that part of our body, but the vagina and the vulva are two different parts of our
Mhm.
anatomy. The vagina is internal, the vulva is external. And I'm breaking that down on purpose because it's important for us women to know the difference so we can also identify the correct location of issues that we may experience. So, um, Most forms of vulva cancer are a form of skin cancer. The one I was diagnosed with is squamous cell carcinoma. However, there are other forms of skin cancer that can appear in that part of your body. It can be melanoma, it can be basal cell carcinoma, it can also be sarcoma, which is a tumor that, a sarcoma that can grow. So there are various different forms of vulva cancer, but most of them are a form of skin cancer.
Wow.
Now, I want to quickly, before moving into, my post diagnosis journey, go into the fact that any woman can get vulva cancer. Now, if you have a vulva, you can get vulva cancer. That's just the plain truth. Unfortunately, the information that we have out there for this cancer is largely outdated and based on research that's basically almost 3 decades old. So, the 3 decade old research suggests that the risk factors for this cancer are smoking, autoimmune diseases such as lichen sclerosis, which I was diagnosed with, HIV, other autoimmune conditions, HPV, the human papilloma virus,
Mm,
um,
okay. Okay.
as well as they say age, that predominantly women over 65 to 70 are being diagnosed with this cancer. However, a lot of this information is wrong and outdated.
Right.
I lead a support group for vulva cancer patients, and the majority of those patients in that group do not fit those risk factor categories. They're not over the age of 65 or 70. They
Mm,
may not be smokers. They've never been diagnosed with HPV, never had an autoimmune condition. This cancer is on the rise. Now, the American Cancer Society puts out information that says that only 0.2% of women will be diagnosed with this cancer, or only 0.2% out of all gynecological cancer, sorry, are vulva cancer.
mm,
That number is also very outdated. More and more women are being diagnosed. Now, here I was diagnosed with this cancer I never heard of. Everyone that I shared the diagnosis with has never heard of it and was like, what? So I tried to pick for information and look for information, like I said, and it was very hard to find anything. Now, roughly 2 weeks after the diagnosis, I really found myself in a place where I was just so confused. I was heartbroken because 2017 was really a year where God has done so much for me in
that
life and
number is
ministry
also
and
very
opened up
outdated.
so many
Um,
doors, and there were so many things that were about to happen, like engagements that was coming up, and like big time platforms that had opened up for me. And here I was diagnosed with cancer. And so I sat in my living room one night and I said, I just yelled out, God, this does not make sense. Now, I never said, why me? My thing was, why right now? The timing of it. And
mm,
I know that kind of sounds messed up because usually the first question is why me, but it was sort of like why now? The timing didn't make sense. And
mm,
as I yelled out, God, this does not make sense. God spoke back to me so calmly and said, it doesn't have to make sense. It just has to give me glory. And I was
wow.
like, wait a minute, how can cancer give you glory? I was mad when he said that. I said, how can cancer give you glory? Something that kills people every day around the globe. How can that give you glory? And suddenly, like the scripture resonated in my spirit that all things work together for the good of those that love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. But here I was even more mad because I was like, God, really? You're just going to let a simple Sunday school scripture resonate in my mind? Because
Oh
I
my
expected him
goodness.
to be deep and profound in his response. But he gave me the basics. And so, but that night I laid down and I said, God, okay, show show me your goodness in this, show
Mhm,
me your glory in this.
mhm,
And
mhm.
he began to do that rather quickly as I began to realize the lack of information for this cancer and the lack of awareness and the lack of resources within like the first month and a half of being diagnosed. I just felt the urge in my spirit that something had to be done about this, and I'm a
Mm,
strong believer that anything that happens to us in life, especially the terrible things we encounter, uh, can serve a purpose,
Yes.
because we all have the God-given potential and power within us
Mm-hmm.
to turn terrible experiences and horrible experiences we go through into purpose. So I had this drive in my spirit. Something has to be done about this. Maybe that is why God allowed it. Maybe because he wants me to speak up. But then at the same time, I felt sort of an embarrassment. But God, you want me to talk about this kind of cancer? Because like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have an issue talking about cancer, but that part of the body, sort of like that shame. But God quickly put me in my place and said, but that's the problem. That's the reason that we don't have awareness. And so I just simply began
Absolutely.
by sharing my story, just sharing what I went through from the first symptoms up to diagnosis, the hard journey, then to getting diagnosed. And as I shared that journey on Facebook, it was just a post on my page because I wanted women to be aware. I suddenly that page, what that post was being shared by so many people,
Mm.
and next thing I knew, I was getting inbox messages from complete strangers, not just from America, but from Australia and other countries. Like, hey, I saw your post and I saw what you said, because I ended the post with the symptoms. And they were like, you know what? I have these symptoms. Like,
Wow.
what do I need to do? I find myself having these symptoms. And it was this one female in particular, all the way from Australia, who I then encouraged to, get a biopsy done. And after some struggles with her doctor, she got it done. And she came back and she sent me a message. And she said, you're not going to believe it. I have this cancer. If it wasn't for your post, I would have gone on undiagnosed. And that
Wow.
was in that moment that I knew this is how God is going to get glory from this, because
Yes.
this
Yes.
awareness
Yes.
aspect is going to save lives. And I didn't know how big it was going to become. But
Mm.
shortly after, God just dropped in my spirit Vulva Cancer Awareness Forum. And I'm like, oh, what's that? Let me go on Google, because I thought he was just trying to guide me and direct me to something. So I'm on Google Vulva Cancer Awareness Forum and nothing came up. I said, well, God, what are you saying with this? And he said, Vulva Cancer Awareness Forum is it's you. You are Vulva Cancer
Wow.
Awareness Forum. And I was like blown away. So after much prayer and seeking God on the vision, and he made a plan, because
Mhm.
that's one thing. If we ask God to show us, he will make that
Make
vision
it
plain.
plain. Yes.
And he made it plain, and it was scary, but I ended up being obedient, and Vulva Cancer Awareness Forum was established in 2018, June of 2018. And so since it has been established, some of the things that we have been doing is, raising awareness, educating women on this disease, also advocating for change, because we need to be told by our physicians that this cancer exists. We
Mm.
need to be told what to look
Yes.
out for. When
Yes.
a woman goes to a gynecological exam, like, our annual exam that we go
Mhm.
through, um, how many of us can say that a doctor has ever looked at our vulva, the outer parts? How many of us can say they ever examined that area?
Mm.
It's very few physicians who actually look at that part. We get
Mm.
our pap smear and we're sent on our way. But
Mm.
here's the thing, a pap smear will not diagnose vulva cancer. There are no
Wow.
screenings for this cancer. So
Mm.
the only screening that is currently there is ourselves doing self exams, checking ourselves out, which means we got to get a handheld mirror or something and get in some type of comfortable position where we can just check out our anatomy and
Yes.
look for anything that's abnormal. And that can be like bumps, lumps, moles. There
Mm.
can be something that looks like a wart but is not a wart.
Mhm.
It can be open sores. It can be just a rough area of skin or discoloration like white patches or red patches. And so we have to look for those things. We being told that we have to do breast exams at home once a
Right.
month. They tell us check your breasts, but they don't tell us check your lady bits.
Right.
And so the thing is, it is so important that we do these self exams, because we literally will be the first ones to notice a difference, because unfortunately there is no protocol for physicians yet to check the outer anatomy of a woman in that
Mhm.
area,
Mhm.
which Vulva Awareness Forum is working hard on changing. So, but with Vulva Cancer Awareness Forum, we also have some support groups. We have support groups for patients who have been diagnosed with this disease, which is basically a safe space they can come to uh, talk, gain support, be among others who understand, find information, ask questions, be understood. Because unfortunately, within that support group, they get more information about this cancer than some of them get from their doctors, as well
Wow.
as the recoveries that come with it. We have a support group for family and friends of those that have been diagnosed, because we realize that when one is diagnosed with cancer, the whole family is basically diagnosed. Like everyone that is closely related to that person and walks with that person goes through it as well, and they need a place as well. They need support as well. They need to be understood as well. And then we have a support group for VIN. VIN actually stands for vulvar intraepithelial neoplasia, which is precancer, vulva
Mhm.
precancer. So it's a precancerous condition, and we have a separate support group for that, as some of the treatments can be a little bit different. Although the surgeries are the same, there are still some differences. So we wanted to create that space for them as well. And so over the past 3 years, we have really grown a lot and done a lot as far as the awareness aspect is concerned, as well as advocacy, advocating on behalf of patients, but also advocating for change, because there is a lot of change that needs to happen. Protocols need to be established in recognizing this cancer, in diagnosing it early, because
Mhm.
the sad thing is that vulva cancer is very treatable if only detected early. But
Wow.
unfortunately, the majority of women get diagnosed when it's already further advanced, due to the fact
Mhm.
that some of them just have been misdiagnosed, like me, for a long time. Others never knew it existed, so they didn't think it could be cancer
Mhm.
until, and you know how we women are sometimes. We have this thing, we just got to keep going. We can't
Yes.
stop. Nobody got time for the doctor. Nobody got time to be sick. So sometimes we also push off seeing a doctor early on when we feel like something is wrong.
Right.
And so, those are some of the things that kind of add to the fact that many are diagnosed already further down the line. By the time I was diagnosed, I already had stage 3 cancer. Well,
Wow.
actually, let me change the word had, because I never claimed vulva cancer. I dealt with stage 3 cancer. So I'm very big on words and the
Well,
power of our words. I never claimed it. I never was like, I have cancer. How many? No, I did. Like, it's not mine. It doesn't belong to me. It's an invasion. It's an enemy, and it
mhm.
has to go. I'm not claiming it as my property. And so, so I like, it had already progressed to stage 3, and unfortunately, that led to me having up to date 14 surgeries, 7 weeks of
Wow.
radical radiation, and 7 weeks of chemotherapy.
Mm.
And so this was all over the course of like roughly 3.5 years. And so last year in June, I had my first clear scan. So thank God for that. And
Yay.
I celebrate that, and many celebrated that with me.
Mhm.
But I want to point something very important out. We think, or even I had that false assumption that when a person is in remission, that now everything is fine again. Well, that is, as I said, a very false assumption. I quickly found out that remission doesn't mean everything is back to normal. Remission doesn't mean suddenly that like everything is like it used to be, because number one, cancer changes you. And
Mm.
the journey changes you. In my case, I always made it my prayer that God would use it in my life for not only for His glory but for growth. That it continues to shape me more and more into who He wants me to be. So it changed me in positive ways, but it also changed me in negative ways, because there's a mental aspect that comes to into play, an emotional aspect that was there during the active cancer journey, but even after remission, because now you're left to live with the fact that your physical anatomy has completely been changed by surgeries. That is a lot for a woman to deal with,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, yeah, we always say we're not defined by our bodies, but once there is an actual drastic traumatic change that happened to your body, yeah, it starts kind of messing with your mind a little bit, and your self-worth. I had those thoughts of, wow, I'm not even like a full woman anymore because that changed. And I know people say that after breast cancer, women say that oftentimes when their breasts had to be removed, but the same effect exists for those with vulvar cancer when their outer anatomy has to be removed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I dealt with that. I'm less of a woman, I'm a single woman. Like, what man would want to marry me? Not saying that I'm not able to have a full marriage life, everything that comes with it. Doctors were so excellent in performing surgeries that that is still possible, but things changed. And
Mm-hmm.
so you deal with that. And that is something that definitely haunts you even after the word remission. So there is an aftermath to cancer, and the aftermath in my case was the mental and emotional effects, but also the physical effects. I'm in pain currently 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
I deal with something that's called lymphedema, which is fluid buildup as a result of having lymph nodes removed, as a result of radiation. That is very uncomfortable and painful. I still deal with exhaustion. I get tired very quickly, much more than I used to. There are so many things that come into play with that. But at the same time, when I can't say everybody, but when I look at my journey and I look at the past 3.5 years, and it was a tough journey. It was a hard journey. If I
Mm-hmm.
had been given a choice, I wouldn't have chosen it. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, it was such a rewarding journey because it allowed me to do what I do with Vulva Cancer Awareness Forum, but it also allowed me to minister to people in a completely different way. I have been very transparent about my journey, the highs, the lows. And one of my mottos was, I'm facing it instead of facing, how he says, oh, you got to face cancer. Like my doctor, my gynecological oncologist, my first appointment with him after diagnosis, he said, we're going to face this together. And I looked at him and I said, you know what? I much rather face it together. Can we face it together? And he said, I like that. We can do that. So my motto became facing it. And so it has been a rewarding journey, although a horrible, painful journey filled with suffering, but yet rewarding and filled with joy and growth and so many good things at the same time that gave God glory. And I kind of want to bring this scripture out real quick in the Bible. I believe it's 2 Corinthians chapter 4 verse 9. I believe when the Bible says, Paul said, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is
Mm-hmm.
made perfect in your weaknesses. And then Paul said, therefore will I boast all the more gladly in my infirmities, so Christ's power may be seen. And in the past, like ever since I became a believer, whenever I would come across that scripture, I used to think Paul was nuts for saying that he boasts in his infirmities. I used to think he wasn't right upstairs for saying that, and for being like, yeah, I'm glad about my infirmities. I never really fully understood the meaning behind him saying that until a few months ago. It really hit me when I looked back and I looked at all the things that God had done throughout this journey that not only gave him glory but saved lives inspired lives, allowed me to minister. Souls have come to Christ as a result of my journey. Yes, I've come to a place where I'm able to say I'm grateful for this journey. Now, I'm not
Mhm.
going to sit here and lie and say, if God said, here, I can allow you to have cancer, but all these wonderful things will happen. You will suffer. You will suffer. You will have more pain than you ever experienced. You will
Mhm.
be pushed to your physical limits, but lives will be saved. Souls will come to me, and you will create a forum, an organization that never existed before. But, I can allow that to happen, and all these wonderful things will come out of it, or I can prevent it from happening, but none of this will happen. I still would have chose option B. Let's not do this. But since I had no choice in the matter, and
Mhm.
looking back, I'm grateful. I am grateful. I'm grateful for this journey. I'm grateful for what God has done. And even after clear scans, this journey is not over yet.
Mhm.
As I'm still like, yes, I'm healed from cancer, but now I'm on a journey to wholeness. Because that's the other thing. When we go
Mhm.
through infirmities, we look for healing, but we very rarely look for wholeness. So I'm looking for healing. Thank God I'm healed from cancer, but now I'm looking for wholeness. And, wholeness is mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically the things that I'm still left to deal with. So, but back to Vulva Cancer Awareness Forum. Now, when I first was diagnosed, a friend had shared with me that there was a cancer organization for women, and they sent care boxes out to patients.
Mhm.
And so she said, go on their website, it's free, fill out the form, and they're going to send you a box. So I went on their website, I filled out the form, and I got an email that said, oh, we're so sorry, but we cannot send you a box because we don't cater to vulva cancer. Excuse me? I couldn't believe it. I said, this has to be some type of joke. And I actually wrote back and I said, you are a organization who says they deal with women's cancers, and you now telling me you don't cater to vulva cancer? And the reply was, oh, it's just too rare. And I
Whoa.
could not believe it. I was so blown away. But it was in that moment that I had set it out within me that I wanted to do care boxes for vulva
Mhm.
cancer patients.
Mhm.
And so it was a vision that I had for roughly 3 years. And, finally it had come to fruition. I started putting the vision out there last year in September, raising funds, doing fundraisers because it's all donation based at the moment. And so we created the Hug in a Box Care Box program, which is a box that contains some items that women who have been diagnosed with this disease will need when going through surgeries and treatments, but other items just to make them feel better. And overall, just something to say, hey, you are not alone on this journey. And so thankfully, we were able to launch the program in February, which is actually Vulva Cancer Awareness Month, which
Okay.
many don't know either. And so since then, we have mailed out over 50 boxes already, and we're
Oh
getting ready
wow.
to mail out some more. We're still running fundraisers because we actually have more requests for the boxes than we currently have boxes, which
Oh.
means we need funds. We need, finances to continue to keep this program rolling and get these boxes to those women with this disease.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's kind of where we at in a nutshell, and where I'm at with this journey and what has led me to do what I do out of this journey. So even a cancer diagnosis can have purpose and will have purpose if we allow it to.
Yes.
That's the thing, because the Bible doesn't lie when it says that all things, not some things, not the things that are comfortable, but all things, work together for the good of those that love the Lord and are called according to his purpose.
Yes.
So, cancer can have purpose if we allow it to. And
Mhm.
that has been my determination all throughout. And it sort of makes the going through also easier because it has meaning. It's
Mhm.
not in vain. there is a meaning to it and a reason for it.
Yes. And I just want to let everyone know that you can help by donating to um, donating so that you can send a care package. And I want y'all to understand how important this is. When you are dealing with an illness that you didn't even know could happen to you, for someone to decide that I'm going to make sure that you're going to be at least comfortable. I'm going to make sure that you have something that you need and maybe something that you want while you're going through this particular journey in your life. And this may be somebody you don't even know, but they decided to get together and donate towards that. That is such a blessing. And we get the opportunity to do this. Maybe you do not know this disease. Maybe you don't understand it and you could take some time to find out about it. But if you think about the fact that there are women out there who are going years without being diagnosed or going years and being misdiagnosed. And then when they do find out about it, it is devastating that you find out that you have cancer. Wouldn't it be nice if you know that there's going to be some support, and not just from family and friends, but there are people out there who will support you. There are people out there who will help you along your way. And I think that's a wonderful thing to get behind. Do you have a GoFundMe account?
Yes. So actually, you can go to the website. I see that it's already blended in, and the website will have a tab that says "Hug in a Box." And when you go on that tab, it will actually show the GoFundMe page. But there is also an option on the website to make a donation directly through PayPal as well. So
Okay.
the GoFundMe can be found on the website in the Hug in a Box section. On the bottom of the website, there is a little tab about PayPal where you can make a donation. I know some don't want to use GoFundMe because they're thinking about the fees that are being taken out. Although it's not much, I do have to admit the fees they take is very minimal. So it's not like they take a whole chunk of the money, but I know some are more comfortable uh, using Cash App. So Cash App can be used as well. That is $Sayana, which is SAYANAH. And when using Cash App, just put a little memo and put in care box so I know where to direct those funds to. And yeah, as Cynthia said, this box can really make such a tremendous difference in the lives of the recipients. If you go to our social media pages on Facebook and Instagram, you can actually see some of the impact these boxes have made, because women have sent pictures of themselves unboxing it, and videos unboxing, and and shared in comment or post how it affected them and how it let them know that they are not alone, because any cancer diagnosis sort of creates loneliness. You feel alone. But when you're diagnosed with a cancer that you or barely anyone has ever heard of, that's still a whole nother level of feeling lonely and isolated. So it lets them know, hey, you're really not walking alone. We're with you. And the funny thing, we only called it the Care Box program at first, but one of our recipients of the box ended up saying in feedback about it that it's like a hug in a box. She felt like it was a hug in a box. And so when she said that, it stuck. And we were like, you know what, can we use that? Because that's the perfect name for this program. And, you
I like
know, it's awesome that the recipients feel like they just received a warm embrace that lets them know we're with you, we're
it.
standing with you.
And that's good. And for all of you, please understand that is so important when you're going through a life altering disease. And we know we know that anytime somebody's diagnosed with cancer, that's life altering. That's not something that, oh, I have cancer and I can go take a pill and it's gone. I could just go and, relax for a couple of days. I'll be fine. That is not what happens. People's whole lives are disturbed, and not just their lives, but the lives of the people who are their caretakers, the mothers, the fathers, the sons, the daughters, the husbands and the wives who have to take care of the patient as they're going through. And if you have a family, not only are you taking care of the patient, but you're also taking care of your family, and you're taking care of your household, and you're taking care of the funds in the household, and you're taking care of making sure they make it to their appointments. And if you have to stay at the hospital, there's a lot that goes into it. And so a hug in a box, it may seem simple, but it would mean so much to someone who's going through, to let them know that we care about you, we care about what you're going through, and we just want to help. Even if it's a little bit, we just want to help. And so I want to, I put it on Facebook, I put it on my YouTube, I put your Cash App up, I put the address up, and I pray that you guys will definitely go on and go on the website, give a donation, and don't make it a one-time hit. Some of us, we one-time wonders. We'll do it one time and we won't do it again. I want to say, don't make that one of the things that you donate to. Saint, like they do St. Jude's every month. St. Jude's gets $19. They get $19 every month. And it's wonderful because that's St. Jude's, and they deal with children with cancer. And here we are asking you to donate for women with cancer, and with a cancer that is very, very rare, that, as she has said, will be most of the times misdiagnosed, most of the time ignored, most of the time, and I can only guess that even family members will say, no, that's not true, that ain't what you got, because they've never heard of it. And so they even begin to downplay what it is that you're dealing with. And so this would be a wonderful way of saying to a woman, like, we're here to embrace you. We want to see you make it through and be there for you. And I know that, as a community, you guys support one another, and you guys are helping one another in just your psyche, the mental state of finding out that you are diagnosed with cancer. And to find out that it's something that could have been diagnosed years ago has to be the most traumatic thing in the world, especially if, like what you talked about, where you were telling people and you were still getting misdiagnosed.
I struggled with that for a long time. The fact that it could have been diagnosed years before the actual diagnosis. I struggled with that really a whole lot for a long time, because I felt let down by doctors, and like I was failed by the medical system, by the medical community. And it just really showed another important aspect, which is self-advocacy. If we know that something is wrong in our body, and it doesn't have to be vulva cancer, but if you know that something is wrong, but a doctor is trying to brush you off, do not let up. Get a second opinion. Insist on certain tests being run, and advocate for yourself, and don't stop until you get the proper treatment and the proper tests, and until you know what's going on. Because that's the other thing, like, women are often brushed off by the medical community for their symptoms. And then if we want to go still into a completely different women as a whole, but then we can go in a different avenue and talk about African American women. For them, it's even worse. And let's be honest about it. For them, it's even worse. Now, women as a whole go through that. We are often being brushed off by physicians, and it's nothing, or is in our head. But for African American women, it's even worse. So self-advocacy, is so important, because had I not insisted on that biopsy and fought for it for like 7 to 8 months, I would have
Wow.
still continued to go on undiagnosed, and I
Mhm.
probably wouldn't be here anymore because cancer would have continued to spread.
Wow.
And so it was a lot to deal with for me. It was hard that it was, to know that it had gotten this bad due to the negligence of the physicians I trusted or was entrusted into their care. It was really hard, and it was something that I had to deal with and ask God to help me and heal me from, because I couldn't stay stuck on there, because I had to put all my energy and focus in what was in front of me now, which was, this cancer journey and surgeries and treatments, and trying to navigate through that and get through that. So, and that's why I do what I do. If me speaking up and raising awareness can spare just one woman from experiencing the same thing
Yes.
that
Yes.
I have gone through, then it's all worth it. Then me going through it is worth it. Me speaking up is worth it. So that's why I'm saying, if you notice that something is wrong in your vulva area, my thing is, if you see something, say something. If you feel
Yes.
something, say something. If you have an itch, if you have pain, if you feel anything that's abnormal down there, do not feel ashamed to seek a doctor's care. Do not be afraid to go to a doctor. I know that we have this stigma. We can't talk about our lady bits, and oh, nobody really want to go to no doctor with issues in that area of our body. But guess what? It's your body. And if you're looking at it
Absolutely.
from a spiritual aspect and Christian standpoint, it's the temple that you've been entrusted with. And
Yes.
as Christians, we have a responsibility to take
Mhm.
care of this temple. And that means if you notice something is wrong, see a doctor. If a doctor doesn't listen, make them listen. If they still don't listen, get a second opinion, get a third opinion, get a fourth opinion if necessary. But don't let up. Don't let up. And that, like I said, that goes for vulvar cancer symptoms, but or any other issues you could possibly physically encounter.
Amen. And it's so important to be aware of yourself. I'm crazy coach. I believe in self-love. And the first
Yes.
person that should love you is you. And
Yes.
so in order for you to know you, you need to be able to love you, you need to know you. And that's every part of you. It's not
Right.
just knowing, how smart I am or how I can get that bag or, how I got this man and how I got these kids and how I got this house. But if you don't take care of this temple right
Right.
here, the one that's been with you since you got here and the one that you're going to leave in, if you don't
Right.
make sure that temple is taken care of, you're not showing self love to this temple. And that's without the makeup, that's without the hair dye, that's without the fake nails and
Right.
everything else. But if we take enough time to make sure that we are very aware of who we are, and when you see something wrong, when you feel something wrong, you know, um, talk about it, put it out there. I remember, and this is going back a while, on Golden Girls, when Dorothy was feeling very sick and the doctor told her she just needed to go on a vacation,
Yes, I
she needed to
remember
see
that
a
episode.
psychiatrist.
Yes.
And she found out, they actually found out that she had a disease. And it's sort of
Hmm.
sad that still in this day and age that we still have diseases that, and I want people to realize this, we still have diseases that nobody really knows that much about. They are
Right.
still out there. Everything is not top shelf. That's all I want to say. Everything's not top shelf. And
Right.
so, and it's those little diseases that most people don't know about, a lot of times don't get the same respect as diseases that we talk about. I talked about breast
Right.
cancer earlier. Like everybody knows about breast cancer. We do the walks, we do the moms, they do the donations, but there are other forms of cancer that most people
Hmm.
don't know nothing about. They ain't never heard of it. They didn't know. They don't know
Right.
what you're talking about. And but there are people who are dealing with that every day. And so if you have the ability of your limbs and you can walk and talk and you can move around, please be grateful. But at the same time, think about the fact that maybe somebody that's not being able to do that, and you have an opportunity to support your brothers or your sisters right now. And right now, I say to you, you have an opportunity to support some women who are struggling with the disease that a lot of us really don't know that much about. And you could take the opportunity to just get to learn the disease, and you can also take the opportunity to go on Johanna's website. I have her website, I have her email. Maybe you're watching this and you're starting to realize that you have certain symptoms, and you may want to talk to her a little bit more about what you heard. Her
Please
email is
reach
right
out.
there.
Yes.
Please reach out. As she's already shown, like a woman reached out to her from Australia to find out. You have an opportunity. You have someone right here. These are the type of women I'm bringing on the show. Women that you can reach out to. They're not so high that you can't reach them. That will help you and support you. So I
Right.
thank you, my sister, for coming on the show tonight.
Thank you
Even when
for
the devil tried,
having
he
me.
couldn't stop us. We, we are our Father's daughters, and we are committed
Yes.
for the cause. So I thank everybody for showing up. If you came on late, you can watch this in a replay. Please support this wonderful woman of God, as she is supporting a community that very few of us know about, but we need to get to know about this community and support this community. Make sure you give to Hug in a Box. I put the Cash App up. I have her, all her information is already in on the chat line, but it's also here, so you can just email her, go to the website, donate again and again, so that these women who are going through will have a hug in a box. And God bless you, my sister. I wish you the
Thank
best. I love you
you.
much.
Yeah.
And I
I
will see
love
you
you
guys
too.
next week, because we're going to be talking finances. I'm talking about donating. We're going to be talking finances.
Right.
So, so God bless you. You guys have a wonderful rest of your night, and I will see you guys next Wednesday. Crazy Coach is out.